So finally, when our interest and inspiration is aroused, when our energy is channeled towards the good, when our mind is prepared for wisdom, then we can begin to approach the fourth of these iddhipadas, bases of spiritual potency. And the fourth is called vimamsa, which means discernment or investigation, inquiry, even experiment. So discernment involves, on the one hand, a deepening of our Dharma knowledge, and on the other hand, a sort of refining of our capacity to be able to apply that Dharma knowledge directly to our experience appropriately. So you might be familiar with a Buddhist image called the Wheel of Life. It's quite a well-known image, and it's a sophisticated image with lots of teachings within it. But really what it is, it's a depiction of human existence. And at the centre of the Wheel of Life, around the central hub, there's this circle that's divided into two halves. One half is dark, one half is shadow, and one half is light. And in the light half, you see human beings depicted ascending, moving upwards. And in the dark half, you see them moving down, falling. They're depicted sort of falling. And essentially what this communicates is that our actions, our views and our mental states can either lead us towards liberation or away from it. And with vimamsa, we start to discern which is which. We start to discern which lead us towards liberation and which lead us away from it. And we don't just see, we actually feel how ethical, skillful activity is liberating, and how unethical, unskillful activity keeps us sort of bound and stuck somehow. One thing I like about how Buddhist ethics talks about skillful and unskillful rather than good and bad is that it implies skill, it implies a craft, it implies an art even. So this is what we're doing with vimamsa. With ethical practice, we begin to develop a sensitivity that can be felt in the body and in the heart. And we learn to rely on this to guide our action in the world. So we begin to sort of be guided by this felt sense of like pain and contraction and alienation when we're not acting in accordance with our vision and conscience. And a felt sense of sort of expansion and connection and liberation when we are acting in accordance with our vision and conscience. And as we learn more about the Dharma in the company of friends and teachers on the path, we experiment with and apply the teachings in our experience. And we might begin to experience transformation and growth that gives us confidence. But also with experiments, with learning, with craft, we also make mistakes. And we learn from these as well. And all of this learning is incredibly valuable to our understanding and application of the Dharma. So Padmasambhava is the archetypal guru, but he can also be a disciple. And in these final symbols that we're going to look at, we can see him as a disciple. So disciple is connected with the root to learn. So a disciple basically just means a learner, someone who learns, is committed to learning. And Padmasambhava, what he wears is these sort of three coloured garments. So he wears a yellow monastic robe that we could say symbolises the wisdom aspect of enlightenment. It symbolises his sort of training in the monastic discipline. He then wears a red cloak, the colour of love and compassion, to symbolise the compassion dimension of Buddhist practice. And closest to his skin, he wears this inner shirt, this inner blue shirt. And this symbolises his training in the tantric path, that aspect of Buddhism which is concerned with the transformation of energy. So these three garments together, his three robes, symbolise his extensive training in the breadth of the whole Buddhist tradition. And these different developments of Buddhism, they focused on these different aspects of the path, these different aspects of enlightenment, and they've developed whole sort of systems of training and practice. And Padmasambhava wearing these three robes symbolises the fact that he's well versed in all of them. He has an awareness and an understanding of the whole breadth of the Buddhist tradition. And this informs this faculty of discernment. It's informed and it's intelligent. But he also wears a lotus cap, which is the sort of traditional hat of the Nyingma Buddhist tradition, which is a particular sect within Tibetan Buddhism. And what this shows is that even though he's drawing on this kind of breadth of knowledge, this breadth of training from all three aspects, he is committed to a particular lineage, he's committed to a particular community who he practices with. So most people need this in order to go deep in practice. Sangharakshita talks about needing more and more of less and less, so focusing down on one particular system of training. And in this way, Padmasambhava is a disciple as well as a guru. And it reminded me a bit of the relationship between the archetypes of the magician and the fool. So the magician has all the sorts of tools and elements at his disposal. And then the fool is his disciple. The fool symbolizes someone who's kind of in this process of constant learning. And in a way, the fool's wisdom lies in his discipleship. So you have this lovely dynamic between these two, magician and the fool, and this lovely dynamic between those two aspects in Padmasambhava as well. So for this fourth iddhipada with discernment, we need to learn to listen to and reflect upon the Dharma and apply it appropriately and skillfully in our practice. And this might involve a lifetime of learning, drawing inspiration from the whole Buddhist tradition, and it might also involve commitment to a particular community, practicing in the company of teachers and friends. And then we too will be wearing the three robes and our equivalent of the lotus hat.